Welcome back to Everyday Hockey, presented by Draftkings, the leader in daily fantasy sports. Don't forget to use promo code THPN upon sign up for a bonus. And if you're a regular user, plug that promo code in for a weekly deal. Today, we talk about Rasmus Ristolainen being traded to the Philadelphia Flyers. Let's get to the nitty-gritty. Joined by the boys at the Straight Up Sabres Podcast. Look, the Buffalo Sabres finally pulled the trigger on one of the better offensive defensemen in the league, Rasmus Ristolainen. They sent him to Philadelphia for a first-round pick in this year's draft, 14th overall, a second-round pick in 2023, and Robert Hägg, a fine defenseman at the exact same age as Ristolainen at 26 years old. What are your thoughts, boys, and how's the Buffalo Sabres market reacting?
So I would disagree with the first point, honestly. I actually don't think he's a particularly good offensive defenseman. He, for a few years, put up good point totals, like almost or just above half a point a game. But a lot of that was racked up on the power play, which isn't nothing, but I mean, it is power play time. And the rest of it is kind of the product of he was playing 27 minutes a night. And while doing that for almost, at that point, 80 games a year, he was racking up maybe 20 to 25 even strength points. And that's kind of while I think he, with his play, was restricting other players he was playing with because of a litany of factors. So I'll say that. And I think to answer the main part of the question, I think a lot of people are like shocked at how good this deal is. There's been talk about a Ristolainen trade, rumor since 2016, and then let's move this guy since like 2018. And to see them get to the final year of his deal and to get this much value out of it, I don't think anyone expected this. It's kind of insane.
It is pretty nuts. Yeah. One of the things too that people, a common talking point that was brought up over the past handful of seasons is that, well, if you reduce his minutes per night, then, maybe you'll start to see him turn around, or maybe that's what he needs to really step up and be the player that, you would draft in the top 10. But as that has happened over the past two seasons, his minutes did get decreased to about 22, 23-ish minutes a night from prior, as Taylor said, where he's playing, 26 minutes a night. His numbers got worse the past 2 years as he had the minutes decrease. So the thing is, this has been something for the past several years. People have been talking about wanting to trade Ristolainen to get him out of here because his underlying numbers have been atrocious. If you measure hockey by more than just hitting guys after the play ends, his eye test, he does not pass it. And, it just kept happening where it was like, oh, well, we have a new coach this year and a new regime in, so maybe that's what he needs to turn this around. And when it comes down to it, it wouldn't have made a difference no matter what. He had the changes. He had coaches who utilized him in different ways, and it just didn't happen. And it never came to fruition. And so to see now that not only were they able to get rid of him, but they, in essence, got a better return for him than the Predators did for Ryan Ellis, or as we just recently learned, that the Rangers were able to get for Pavel Buchnevich. It's unbelievable that they were able to pull this off. And I think it's not only a testament to Kevin Adams, but I think even more than that, it's a testament to him bringing in Jason Karmanos and Sam Ventura onto his staff, because bringing on two guys like that really leads me to believe that one of the first things they said when they walked in the door is we need to get rid of this guy because he is an analytical nightmare.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think he'll play better with different teammates?
So I don't think that there's any denying that something that contributed to him having such bad numbers is that the Sabres have just flat out been bad. But at the same time, he also contributed to their badness. So I do think that a change of scenery in an even further reduced role could be a good thing for him. I don't think that we'll ever see him get back to being a 40-point guy, especially if you're going to be reducing minutes like that. Maybe for the Flyers, you have Provorov, who's going to probably be quarterbacking the power play for power play 1. Maybe he gets some time on power play 2 potentially. But I think a change of scenery could be good for him, but not to the degree that it would be worth the technically 13th overall pick, a second round pick, and a third pairing defenseman who pretty much puts up the exact same or very close to the same underlying numbers as him. What do you think, Taylor?
Yeah, I agree. I think he'll either be a second pairing guy now, or he'll be like the lesser guy on the first pairing in Philadelphia. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
And they have two good defensemen now with Ellis and Provorov, but I agree that he could be good there, and especially for 1 year at $5.4 million. If Philly had traded a second round pick, I'd say it's worth a shot, I guess. But adding this with the Gostisbehere trade, it kind of seems like they're replacing Gostisbehere with him, and I don't really see it, and especially for this price. I would have been wary about him playing second role minutes or getting him for $5.4 million for 1 year without retaining salary, even without giving all this up. But yeah, he will be better. If I almost guarantee he'll be better than he was these past 2 years next year, but I don't think it'll be anywhere close to worth it.
I don't even know if I have to ask this, but satisfied?
Yeah. That was satisfied is putting it lightly. Like there honestly might be like a championship parade in Buffalo tomorrow for all we know. Like there's a good chance. No, I think that Kevin Adams completely knocked it out of the park, grand slam. Like we've been tough on him, especially on the podcast. Like we've hammered him. He came into this role last year with virtually no experience in a front office role at all, like nothing. And he came in last offseason, you know, a lot of those roster moves were reflected by Ralph Kruger's influence, and he had his hands all over a lot of the moves that they made last year. And, you know, namely, I mean, Cody Eakin, look no further than that contract. But, you know, to be able to, as I mentioned before with Carmanos and Sam Ventura, bring in two quality pieces of the front office who are big believers in analytics, especially Sam Ventura. I mean, I have to think that their influence was involved in this because there had been rumors swirling for a while that Terry Pegula was a really big fan of Ristolainen, and that's why the trade didn't happen sooner. I mean, of course, there was the infamous leak that came out a couple of years ago that before Hall was traded to the Devils for Adam Larson, there was a straight up Ristolainen for Hall deal on the table that the Sabres turned down. So,
wow.
So to have this come to fruition after just years of knowing that this guy just does not have what it takes to be a top pairing defenseman, at least for us, maybe it'll work out in a lesser role, but I am over the moon right now. It gives them so much flexibility too, because you're removing a guy who was eating up so many minutes on the back end for them in the top four. For the Sabres too, I mean, they have a lot of young defensemen. They definitely have some holes that they have to plug in now, but replacing the minutes that Ristolainen was playing with a guy who might be able to give you at least like average numbers, underlyings, analytics, I think will make a huge difference for this team. And then on top of that, the return, I mean, you know, what more can you say about being able to get a first round pick? Again, he got more than Ryan Ellis and Pavel Buchnevich. Like, that's insane that Ristolainen netted this much. So I'm very curious to see now if the Sabres take that 13th pick and try and move up back into the top 10 to get a second top 10 pick, because of course they're picking first overall. But there have been a lot of rumors that they really, really like William Eklund. I think Taylor and I are both of the belief that we kind of hope that they take him first overall and just not have to worry about it. But who knows? Maybe this sets them up now to get into the top 10 again, and then they're able to get two blue chip guys. As you know, we're also waiting. It could happen any minute. Well, even we're talking right now, Eichel and Reinhart could also be traded too. But high marks for this deal. Sorry I rambled about it, but 100% A+ from me.
It's funny. I was actually going to ask you guys if you believed Kevin Adams and co were the right general managers for the job, if they could be the ones, that management core, to finally employ a proper rebuild in Buffalo. You guys seem high on them. You're beaming right now. So I'll leave you with one more. Who else on this roster is going to be traded other than a Dahlin, who I imagine is still untouchable, or at the very least hasn't served enough time in Buffalo yet to be moved?
I think he probably is. They'd probably need a really good trade to trade Yoki Haru, since he's young and also a decent defenseman. And Dylan Cousins, they're probably not going to trade. And that might be it, honestly.
Maybe
but
UPL too.
UPL, yeah, but he's not in the NHL yet.
Yeah.
But I think as far as moves, they will be trading Eichel for sure this offseason. Reinhart, from there, it's like they have to. Jake McCabe and Linus Ullmark are free agents, so they have to replace them, or theoretically maybe sign Ullmark. I think McCabe's 100% gone, and then maybe Colin Miller is an option for trading. He has 1 year left, and he's a veteran. Other than that, I think they're going to stick to the young guys. I wouldn't say they're untouchable, but I don't think guys like Casey Middlestat, Rasmus Asplund, guys like that probably will get traded.
Yeah, and just to further Taylor's point too, you know, with them being such a young team, especially looking ahead to next season, I think that there are definitely maybe going to be moves that we don't even know about. Maybe it's going to be we're trading futures and for guys who are going to be able to step in next season, because even though it's a good thing that they're going to embrace the youth movement, at the same time, you got to have some guys who are going to be able to fill out the roster to take some of the burden off. I mean, one of the huge issues that we ran into with Casey Middlestat after they traded Ryan O'Reilly is they tried to plug him into a second line center role when he just wasn't ready for it. And I'm not ready for them to make that same mistake with Dylan Cousins if they move Jack Eichel and try and put him into a first line center role. He looked really promising last year. I think Cousins is going to end up being a really, really good player, like all-star caliber player. I'm very confident in that. But he's not ready to step into that first line center role. So they're going to have to make some moves for sure. But yeah, I mean, to that point, and to your point, Taylor, too, like I would say probably Dahlin and Cousins are the only ones that I would even qualify as like quote unquote untouchable. Yoki Haru and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen are probably in like that next tier down. And then you have some of your younger guys too. I mean, who knows? We've even heard there's maybe rumors of like them trying to flip Victor Olofsson. So that could be a possibility. We see a lot more movement is going to be on the way for the Sabres, and this team is going to look very young and very different next season.
Taylor and Brennan of Straight Up Sabres Podcast. What do you guys got cooking this summer?
Yeah, so we are putting out episodes still Mondays and Thursdays. We are called Straight Up Sabres. You could find us on Twitter at Straight Sabres. We're also on Facebook and Instagram on at Straight Up Sabres. And then you can also find us on your streaming platform of choice, whether it's Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, whatever it is that you listen to podcasts on, you could find us on there. So if you're interested in learning about a team with a whole lot of turmoil, a whole lot of youth, and just a lot of bad luck for 10 years, if you want to go even further than that, like 50 years, check us out. We have a good time on the podcast, and we do a good job of, I think, keeping things light and fun while, we're kind of dealing with our own misery.
I agree with that.
That's it for the video today. Tell us if Brennan's shirt was purchased at a thrift shop or if that thing is Gucci in the comments below. Smash that like button and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.